Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Read TFAS, where I take old stories I've narrated and update them to modern audio standards. This particular story is called Storytellers, written by PD46 Lily. Humans are a curious race. They are a study in dichotomy of the greatest extremes. When they first came to the greater common's attention, we didn't think much of them other than that they were a small, insignificant blip in the cosmos. Frankly, we thought they would become extinct shortly after discovery. They had only just colonized an insignificantly small portion of their arm of the galaxy. We thought that one of the older members would wipe them out shortly, but that never happened. Not only were they not purged from the universe, they thrived and became one of the most respected members of the greater commons, and they did it without ever firing a single shot, harming a single sentient, or signing a single treaty when they first came before the greater commons. They did it through their elders, and the ones that remembered, the ones that most races dismiss as a burden, if they were even allowed to exist. They were the storytellers, the ones that remembered and told everything. They were the ones that the greater commons didn't know how to handle. At first, the aggressive races wanted to wipe out this new species on the galactic game board. Their technology was fairly on par with ours, but the greater common species had the significantly larger numbers. The humans were given the opportunity to ask for protection. Instead, they sent us recorded remembrances from their elders through several decades. Esther, age 87, survivor, Bergen-Belsen. I was 9 when they came for us. I spent 4 years in the camps. I watched my mother, my sisters, and my aunt slowly die of starvation and disease. Redacted. Maiko, age 83, survivor, Japanese internment. I was an American citizen. So were my parents. They took my family's house, my father's business, and told us that we had to go, to move across the country, that we were traitors because of the way we looked. Redacted. Walter, age 79, survivor, Tuskegee experiment. My father was one of the people they studied for this atrocity. We trusted the doctors because they said that they were helping us. I have never had children because I can't. I watched my old man get sicker and sicker, and my sister died because we trusted the doctors. Redacted. Judith, age 91, survivor Rwandan genocide. They came down the streets and broke into the homes with machetes. They hacked people to pieces in front of their families and friends. Dozens of people, hundreds of people dead in the streets and in their homes. Mothers, fathers, babies. It didn't matter who they were or how old. All that mattered was that they were Tutsi. The thing is, Hutu or Tutsi, it didn't matter. The only reason they were Hutu and Tutsi is because some other people said so. Redacted. To Agro, age 68, survivor, Sierra Leone Civil War. I was 11. Soldiers came into my village and rounded up all the boys. They told us that we had to fight for the army. If we didn't, they said that they would kill us. I told them, no, I don't want to fight. They made my mother kneel in front of me and put a gun in my hand. They told me, shoot your mother, or we'll shoot your brothers and sisters. Then we'll shoot your mother and you. My mother told me to shoot her, so my brothers and sisters wouldn't die. I shot my mother, so my siblings wouldn't die, and went to be a soldier. Redacted. Rebecca, age 98, survivor, World War III. They cut our food rations to almost nothing. We had already been living underground for 5 years, and the food shortages were getting critical. Almost 2/3 of the food-producing areas were razed to the ground, all because of some idiot in charge decided that he was butthurt and started a war with someone just as much as an arsehole as him. I watched families with small children and no food suddenly have fewer children and more meat. It got so bad that the children were openly being sold for slaughter for a few bags of rice or beans. Redacted. The greater commons was shocked and terrified by the story sent to us by these humans. Hundreds of them. Thousands of them. At first we thought that they were exaggerations. No sentient species could do this to their own. Atrocity after atrocity, depravity after depravity. Each story its own little piece of torture. But the stories were true. They let our auditors gather the proof. Humans were truly terrifying in their capacity for cruelty and horror. The aggressive species as a whole decided to not take action against humans. If they would do this to their own, what were they capable of doing to others? But then the non-aggressive species came to the greater commons in droves, requesting asylum and protection against this great evil that we had inadvertently found. For surely they would be destroyed by the humans. Again, the humans were asked before the greater commons to ask them to refrain from destruction. But again, they sent us remembrances. Elliot, age 92, survivor, wildfires, California. Everything was on fire. It was like the whole world was on fire. My whole town burned that year. Everything. Nothing was left standing. 36 people lost their lives from those fires. All of them were jumpers or ladder companies. All of them were volunteers. They didn't do it for the money. They did it to help. Redacted. Nadia, age 73, survivor, brain tumor. I was 42 years old when I was diagnosed. By that time, I could barely walk anymore, let alone take care of my 3 kids while I was getting treatment. My partner did as much as he could, but he had to work. The closest hospital for my treatment was 2 hours away. I had to travel 2 to 4 times a week. My neighbors heard about my troubles. She organized 30 or 40 people to come every day to clean and cook. Then she organized people to drive me to my appointments every week. Redacted. Min June, age 94, survivor, melanoma. I had bad cancer when I was in my 20s. They started with all the standard treatments, chemo, radiation drugs, you name it, they tried it. The only thing those treatments did was slow it down. They said that the only thing left to try was a marrow transplant. My family and friends all went and got tested, and even though the test is agonizing, but none of them were a match. Seems I had some funky rare thing. My cousin put it out on social media that I needed a transplant and was looking for a donor. We'd figured we'd get maybe 100 people on the test date. Over 180,000 people showed up and tested all over the country. That day, they found my match. They also found matches for 53 other people. Redacted. Emmy, age 31, posthumous, redacted. I make this statement of my own free will. I was not coerced in any way, and of sound mind and body. I hereby give permission to the doctor, redacted, to remove my redacted, to replicate and reproduce a serum and vaccine for the treatment of redacted. I understand that having redacted removed, it will kill me. To date, over 380 million have died of this disease, and over 300,000 are dying of it each day. I am one of under 100 people immune to the disease, and so far the only one to be a universal donor. Mom Emma, Mommy Aggie, I love you both. Redacted. So many stories of kindness, compassion, and even sacrifice for others. Thousands of them, millions of them. How could this horror of a species, this great evil, have such compassion for others? Again, we sent auditors to confirm, and again, the stories were true. The greater commons chose a stance of non-interference with the humans. We would let them be, if they did the same. Then came the great famine of Entru. Ecological disaster destroyed more than 90% of their harvest. But the humans came with food and supplies. They did the same for the Hafendrina and the Grutima and the Kermisterlians. They never asked for anything in return. The greater commons again didn't know how to react. Humans interfered, but they did it with altruism, something that could not be censured. When the Frinta were discovered by the Centaurans, they accidentally forgot to register them with the greater commons. They were already in the process of pacifying the planet when the humans found out about it. The Frintans now thrive within the greater commons. The Centaurans say but a footnote. The humans warned them, told them that the Frinta were now under human protection. They chose not to listen. The next time a new species was discovered and accidentally not registered with the greater commons, all it took was a polite letter written by a single human child for the species to be registered within the hour. Storytellers and their envoys are now a common thing amongst many races. They are some of the most revered beings within the galaxy. So, now that I have your attention, let me tell you a story. I would just like to thank the T5 supporters: Bushmaster 117, Caspar Arnholtz, Drexzoon WRE, Elijah Silvercross, Gray, John Carrington, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.